The thing that I'd like to highlight is you have a real lack of player feedback, especially without you explaining what was going on in the beginning. I really had no idea what was happening. There aren't really any prompts to tell the player what to do, like you need to find these things, and there isn't any positive feedback when you do find the animals. I think that was the hardest part for me, just like following what was happening. Was the headset not working today?
It worked when we started up, but it wasn't working out.
And you were just playing in like a debug first-person mode. Is that what we were watching? So it didn't look like VR footage that we were watching. You were playing in like a first-person.
It would look like the exact same thing in the VR thing. Though.
Okay, so that definitely made it harder to read what was happening. It was unclear to me, and I don't fault you for this. I think I talk to people when I talk about game jams. I talk in terms of how many handicaps are you going to take this weekend, like a golf handicap. And taking VR is always a pretty huge handicap. Like it will make your project a lot harder. So it's hard to tell the sort of the intentions of your game versus things that were side effects of using a debug mode. I think that overall there were a lot of ways that you spent a lot of energy, like the drawers that come out, that didn't have a big impact on gameplay, but at the same time there were areas that definitely needed energy, like the player feedback. And I noticed when you turned off the TV, the music kept playing, which felt really strange to me. I would say scale back on those things, accept the fact that you're already being really ambitious by doing a VR project, and then really try to focus on what makes our game fun and meaningful. I don't think a sandbox mode adds much to your game. Instead, focus on how do we communicate to the player that they've succeeded at single player? How do we communicate what they need to be doing? And really focus on that core gameplay, because if your game is rough around the edges, people will still play it. That's why you have games like Fallout and Skyrim, where you accidentally launch a bear into the sky and it becomes 1,000 miles tall, and you just laugh and keep going on to like save the empire or whatever. But if a game doesn't have strong core mechanics, you're not going to get people to come back and keep at that. I think that would have gone a long way. It's just communicating that, focusing on player intentions, and I know, so I do a lot of VR development. I actually work on HoloLens, and one of the biggest challenges in VR is dealing with sim sickness or motion sickness, and the movement speed in your game, I'm surprised anybody was able to play that. I don't know how much differently it plays in VR, but I would say focus your energy on that, because if people get physically ill playing your game, it doesn't matter how fun your game is. People just not play it. So really get focused on the core things. There's really essential features. It's clear that you guys put in a lot of effort and learned a lot from this, so I can't fault you for shortcomings, particularly because you're sort of on this frontier that nobody knows how to do. So that's really impressive and ambitious, and I applaud you for that. But do focus on those, as you bring in those challenges, focus on resolving the challenges that come with that.
Yeah, it really feels like an idea and a beginning of something rather than an actual game at this point. You've created an interactive room where you've got a lot of physics-based things that react when you pick them up and throw them, but in terms of who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it, and is it fun? These are all things I think that need a lot more time to develop. This is actually a pretty common problem in game development, where people kind of create scenarios and systems but don't really they don't all connect. It's very ambitious what you've tried, it's just you needed more time to actually do something meaningful with it. So what I would say is the good thing about this is you actually learned from experience in building something that while it actually functions and you can walk around in a 3D environment, I think in a web browser, if I'm actually understanding this correctly, which is pretty impressive, right? But then start taking the things that you're learning from actually building these kind of interactions, and then try and figure out what you're trying to actually do and answer the question, like, is it fun, and will players actually feel invested in it? Like, I didn't actually know what the player character, who they were, what they were doing, and why, and I couldn't figure out why. I thought you were a mouse or something like that, and then when the camera was constantly high up in the room, I was like, what's actually going on? So it was, I'm not playing it, so I'm just kind of watching it. It was very hard to read exactly what was going on. the explanations helped, but you have to kind of judge a game on what it is. It has to stand on its own, and I think this just definitely good ideas and intentions that just need a lot more thought and development into it.
I don't think I'd say too much more than my fellow judges have said. You did a number of things really particularly well. I mean, kind of doing this thing in A-frame and doing it kind of web-based like that, like awesome. And then exactly what Bobby's saying, that you kind of got all these great tools. Like you really made all these interesting things happen, but then like how does that come together to tell me a story, to let me sort of know what it is. So it looks like it could be fun to play, but part of that fun is going to be like being immersed in a narrative and sort of understanding what it is that we're getting to. So I'm kind of splitting between the sandbox and the mouse view, and kind of understanding what the conflict is with the cat or what you're trying to do. Kind of would help that go, like that core gameplay idea. At the same time, still though, guys, like I mean, you did some really cool stuff, like in VR. That is awesome project to make.
All right, thank you guys so